My cousin's wife slapped my daughter at a family gathering and said she wasn't family. I caught it all on camera, and she was arrested. I would have dropped it if she apologized, but she didn't. I, 43 male, have been running my own roofing and general contracting business here in Phoenix for the past 16 years. I started with absolutely nothing but a beat-up 4-on-4, some basic tools I bought at pawn shops, and a willingness to work 14-hour days under Arizona heat. Now I employ 52 people across 3 crews, and we pull in about $4.1 million annually. Not bad for a guy who learned the trade from YouTube videos, library books, and pure stubbornness. The early years were brutal. I remember eating peanut butter sandwiches for dinner because every dollar had to go back into equipment and supplies. I slept in that old truck more nights than I care to admit when I couldn't afford both gas money and a motel room. But I knew if I could just survive those first few years, I'd build something real. I'm divorced. My ex-wife Rachel left me in 2018 when the business was struggling during a recession. She thought she was trading up for some finance guy with a steady salary and benefits package. Rachel always cared more about appearance than substance. She wanted the white picket fence lifestyle without understanding the work it takes to build it. Joke's on her though, because that finance dude got laid off 6 months later when his company downsized. Meanwhile, my company not only survived but came back stronger than ever. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. My daughter Emma lives with me full-time by her own choice. When the divorce happened, the judge gave her the option since she was 15 at the time. She chose to stay with me without hesitation. She said she'd rather live with someone who actually cared about her future instead of someone obsessed with keeping up with the neighbors. That decision still makes me proud every single day. Emma's 17 now honor roll student plays varsity volleyball and works part-time at a local fitness center to save money for college. This kid understands the value of hard work because I made sure she learned it early. She's been helping me sort screws, organize tools, and clean up job sites since she was 8 years old. Not because I needed free labor, but because I wanted her to understand that everything worthwhile requires effort. Emma's not one of those spoiled teenage girls you see posting on TikTok all day. She buys her own clothes with money she earns, does her own laundry, cooks dinner twice a week, and actually appreciates what she has. When she wanted a car for her 16th birthday, I told her she could earn half the money and I'd match it. It took her 8 months of working weekends and summer vacation, but she saved up $4,500. Now she drives a reliable 2015 Honda Civic that she maintains herself, changes the oil, checks the tire pressure, and keeps detailed maintenance records. The girl has goals too. She wants to study business administration and eventually take over my company when I retire. We spend evenings going over job estimates, employee schedules, and profit margins. She asks smart questions about expansion plans and investment strategies. At 17, she understands more about running a business than most college graduates. Now here's where the story gets interesting and why what happened later made my blood boil. My cousin Derek works as a mechanical engineer for a major defense contractor here in Phoenix. He makes around $155,000 annually, which is solid money in Arizona. Derek's always been a good guy, smart, hardworking, reliable, but honestly kind of awkward with women. He spent most of his 20s focused on his career. He didn't date much and never learned to spot red flags when it came to relationships. That's probably how he ended up married to this absolute disaster named Brittany 3 years ago. Derek was 35, desperate for companionship, and completely unprepared for what hit him. Brittany is 26 years old, though we later discovered she's actually 29 and lying about her age, bottle blonde with obvious plastic surgery, and one of those Instagram influencer types with about 55,000 followers. Her entire existence revolves around posting bikini photos from expensive locations, unboxing designer products she can't afford, and promoting whatever scam supplement company pays her $200 to post a sponsored story. She calls it building her brand and entrepreneurship. But really, she's just a professional gold digger who struck it rich with a lonely engineer who didn't know any better. This woman has never worked a real job in her entire life. While Derek's putting in 50-hour weeks designing aircraft components and defense systems, Brittany's at home taking selfies and spending his entire paycheck on designer handbags, jewelry, and lease payments for her white BMW. She's got Derek completely convinced that her social media career is going to make them rich someday. She shows him fake screenshots of other influencers making millions, talks about brand partnerships that are just around the corner, and promises that her follower count is about to explode. Meanwhile, her actual monthly earnings are maybe $300 on a good month, mostly from desperate supplement companies targeting her few thousand real followers. The thing that really bothers me is how Brittany treats Emma whenever we're at family gatherings. She's constantly making these passive-aggressive comments about Emma's practical clothing choices, suggesting she needs makeup, and highlighting and questioning why she works, instead of just asking me for money. Last summer at a family barbecue, she actually told Emma she'd be really attractive if she put some effort into her appearance and maybe got some professional help. Like, lady, my daughter doesn't need your approval to exist in this world. Emma handles it with more grace than Brittany deserves, but I can see how these comments affect her. No 17-year-old girl should have to deal with some gold-digging wannabe influencer questioning her worth. Brittany also has this 16-year-old daughter, Madison, from a previous relationship with some deadbeat who disappeared the moment child support became an issue. Madison is basically a smaller, more entitled version of her mother, materialistic, demanding, and genuinely believes the world owes her everything because she happens to be conventionally attractive. Derek pays for everything in Madison's life now. Private school tuition at $18,000 per year, designer clothes, the latest iPhone every time a new model comes out, professional dance lessons, horseback riding lessons, whatever the princess demands. This kid has never been told no in her entire pampered life. Madison throws screaming tantrums when she doesn't get exactly what she wants, talks down to service workers like they're subhuman, and genuinely believes she's superior to other people because her stepdad has money. She's never worked a day in her life, never been held accountable for anything, and never faced a single real consequence for her behavior. The biological father is nowhere to be found naturally. Probably some other sucker who got trapped by Brittany's act and escaped before the financial damage got too severe. So Derek's been stuck playing daddy to someone else's spoiled brat, while Brittany drains his bank account and destroys his self-respect. So New Year's Eve 2023 rolls around, and my brother Kevin decides to host a family party at his place in Scottsdale. Kevin's a radiologist who does very well for himself. He bought this beautiful 4,500 square foot house with a pool, 3-car garage, and mountain views, the whole suburban dream setup that takes most people decades to afford. Usually these family gatherings are pretty relaxed affairs. Kevin's wife makes incredible food, we play some cards, watch football, and count down to midnight on TV. Nothing fancy, just family spending time together without any drama or stress. Emma and I arrived around 7 p.m. on December 31st. She was wearing these brand new Air Jordan 4 black canvas sneakers that she'd been saving up for since September. These particular shoes cost her $420 of her own money, earned from working 15 hours a week at the fitness center while maintaining a 3.9 GPA and playing varsity volleyball. Here's what makes these shoes special. They're part of an extremely limited release that Nike only produces in small quantities. When they dropped in December 2023, they sold out in literally 3 minutes across every retailer in the country. Emma had been entering online raffles, joining waitlists, and setting alarm clocks for months trying to get a pair. She finally succeeded through Nike's SNKRS app after probably 50 failed attempts. By the time we got to Kevin's house that evening, these exact shoes were already reselling for $750 to $800 on StockX, GOAT, and other sneaker platforms. Emma was one of maybe 200 people in all of Arizona who managed to get them through the official retail release. The moment we walked through Kevin's front door, I spotted Derek's white BMW in the circular driveway and felt my mood shift slightly. Don't get me wrong, I love Derek like a brother, but dealing with Brittany's personality at family events is exhausting. Sure enough, she was already holding court in the spacious living room with some of my female relatives showing off her new Cartier love bracelet that probably cost Derek 3 months of overtime pay. Madison was sprawled across Kevin's expensive leather sectional, scrolling through TikTok with this bored, superior expression like she was too sophisticated for family gatherings. She was wearing a complete designer outfit that probably cost more than most people make in a month. Golden Goose sneakers, $500, some designer jeans I didn't recognize, but probably $300 plus, and a Balenciaga hoodie, $800, all purchased with Derek's credit card, naturally. The first thing Brittany said when she spotted Emma walking in was, "Oh wow, Emma, those are actually really cute shoes. Where did you get them, Target?" Then she laughed like she'd made some incredibly witty joke. The dismissive tone was obvious to everyone in the room. Emma just smiled politely and explained she'd gotten them through Nike's app after months of trying. She didn't mention the price or how hard they were to find. Emma's not the type to brag about material things. I watched Madison's head snap up from her phone when she heard Nike and months of trying. This girl knows expensive sneakers when she sees them. Derek's probably bought her 30-plus pairs over the past 2 years, everything from limited edition Jordans to $1,200 Balenciaga trainers. Madison got up from the couch and walked over to examine Emma's feet more closely, like she was inspecting a museum piece. Wait, those are the black canvas fours, Madison said with sudden intense interest. I wanted those so bad, but Derek said I already have too many shoes. She said it with this whiny victim voice like she was somehow being mistreated by only having 3 walk-in closets full of designer footwear. Emma mentioned how she'd been working extra shifts at the gym and saving every dollar for months to afford them. You'd think that would earn some respect from a girl who's never worked a day in her life. Right? Absolutely wrong. Madison just rolled her eyes like the concept of earning something through labor was beneath her consideration. That's so weird, she said. Why would you work when you could just ask your dad to buy them? That's what I do. Emma patiently explained that I believe in teaching her responsibility and the value of money. Madison looked genuinely confused by this concept, like I just explained quantum physics to a toddler who couldn't grasp basic arithmetic. But that's like so much work, Madison said. And it takes forever. Derek just buys me whatever I want when I want it. That's what parents are supposed to do. We somehow made it through dinner without any major incidents. Kevin had spent all day smoking his famous brisket, and the whole extended family was having a genuinely good time sharing stories, catching up on each other's lives, and enjoying the relaxed atmosphere. I was actually starting to think maybe this would be one of those rare drama-free family gatherings where everyone behaved like adults. How wrong I was. After dessert and coffee, Brittany announced she had special surprise gifts for the teenage girls in the family. She disappeared into Kevin's guest bedroom and returned with these elaborate gift bags filled with tissue paper, presented with the kind of theatrical fanfare you'd expect from someone desperate for attention. Madison tore into her gift bag immediately, like a kid on Christmas morning ripping through the tissue paper without any care for the mess she was making on Kevin's expensive carpet. She pulled out this elaborate Fenty Beauty makeup palette, set probably $180 worth of high-end cosmetics, including eyeshadows, lipsticks, and highlighting powders. Madison barely mumbled a thanks before immediately ripping open all the packages and starting to test colors on her hand, getting makeup all over Kevin's white leather furniture. No appreciation, no genuine gratitude, just immediate consumption, like she deserved these expensive gifts. Emma opened her gift bag more carefully, folding the tissue paper neatly and setting it aside. Inside, she found a $30 gift card to Bath and Body Works, along with some drugstore lip gloss that probably cost $4. The difference in value was so obvious it was almost insulting. Designer makeup worth nearly $200 for Madison drugstore scraps worth maybe $35 for Emma. But Emma handled it with pure class, thanking Brittany genuinely and putting the gift card carefully in her purse without any visible disappointment. She even complimented the lip gloss color, saying she'd never tried that particular shade before. That's when Madison noticed Emma's Jordan 4s again and got that calculating, covetous look in her eyes that I'd seen before. I'm literally obsessed with those shoes, Madison announced loud enough for the entire room to hear. She said literally the way teenage girls do when they don't understand what the word actually means. They would look so much better with my outfits anyway. I actually go places where people notice fashion and take photos. The entitlement was absolutely breathtaking. This girl had literally just received $180 worth of free makeup and was already demanding someone else's property because she thought she deserved it more. Brittany immediately jumped in to support her daughter's demands. Oh, honey, maybe Emma would let you borrow them sometime. You girls are practically the same shoe size, aren't you? It would be so sweet if you could share. Emma politely explained that she doesn't lend out her shoes, especially ones she worked so hard to afford. She said it respectfully but firmly, a completely reasonable response from any normal person who understands property rights. But Madison wasn't having it. Come on, it's not like you have anywhere important to wear them. I have a sweet 16 party next month with actual Instagram influencers coming. These shoes would be perfect for my photos, and I'd get way more likes than you ever could. The audacity was completely unreal. This spoiled brat thought because her stepdad had money, she automatically deserved whatever caught her fancy. The idea that someone might want to keep their own possessions was apparently foreign to her. When Emma held firm on keeping her own property, Madison looked to her mother for backup with this expectant expression like she was calling in reinforcements. That's when Brittany's true nature started showing through the fake nice act. Emma, sweetie, Madison really loves those shoes, and she doesn't get to see you very often because you live so far away. Wouldn't it be nice to share with family? Derek works very hard to provide for all of us, and Madison has such important social events coming up. My brother Kevin sensed the tension building in his living room and tried to change the subject by asking about everyone's New Year's resolutions. But I could see exactly where this was heading. These people genuinely believed they could guilt trip and pressure my daughter into giving up something she'd earned through months of hard work. The shoes stay with Emma, I said firmly, keeping my voice calm but making my position crystal clear. She bought them with her own money. Brittany put on this shocked, wounded expression like I just suggested we burn down Kevin's house. Oh, Tyler, I didn't realize you were raising Emma to be so selfish with family members. That's really sad. The room went quiet. Several relatives looked uncomfortable with the direction this conversation was taking, but Brittany wasn't finished making her true character known to everyone present. The entire room went dead quiet after Brittany called Emma selfish for wanting to keep her own shoes. I felt my jaw clench and my hands form fists, but I was trying to keep my cool because Emma was watching how I handled this situation. She needed to see that you can stand up for yourself and defend your principles without losing control. Madison, seeing her mother backing her up and sensing weakness, decided to get more aggressive with her demands. I'll trade you, she told Emma with this fake generous tone. You can have my makeup palette for the shoes. That's like a really good deal for you since makeup is what girls actually need. Emma pointed out calmly that she doesn't wear much makeup, and besides, the shoes cost significantly more than the cosmetics. Basic math and logic, right? The shoes retailed for $420 and were worth $800+ on resale, while the makeup was maybe $180 retail. That's when Madison completely dropped her mask and showed her true entitled nature. So what if they cost more? Derek makes like 6 figures. We can afford way more expensive stuff than you guys can ever dream of. The absolute audacity of this spoiled brat talking about money that wasn't even remotely hers. She was bragging about her stepdad's salary like she'd earned a single dollar of it herself through any kind of effort or contribution. And Derek just sat there saying absolutely nothing while his stepdaughter openly disrespected my family in front of everyone. Brittany decided to escalate the situation even further, clearly thinking she could use social pressure to get what her daughter wanted. Madison, honey, I think those shoes would be absolutely perfect for your sweet 16 party next month. All the influencer kids from your private school will be there. Plus, we're hiring a professional photographer. Imagine how amazing the photos would look. She turned to Emma with this fake sweet smile that made my skin crawl. Emma, you'd want Madison to look her best for such an important milestone birthday, wouldn't you? Your family, after all. You can always buy another pair when you save up enough money again. With what money? Emma asked reasonably. I'd have to work for another 3 months to afford these again, and they might not even be available anymore since they're limited edition. Well, maybe that would teach you better money management skills and the value of hard work, Brittany snapped, finally dropping the pretense of being nice and showing her true, ugly personality. That was absolutely the last straw. I stood up immediately and told Emma we were leaving right now. The whole family was staring at us like we just announced we were joining some kind of cult, but I didn't care anymore. These people were toxic and entitled, and I wasn't subjecting my daughter to another minute of their psychological abuse. We're done here, I announced to the room. Emma, get your jacket. As we walked toward Kevin's front door, Madison jumped up from the expensive sectional and actually blocked Emma's path like some kind of highway robber. You're not leaving with those shoes. I want them and I should have them. I deserve them more than you do. This spoiled girl actually reached down and tried to physically grab Emma's foot to untie the shoelaces. Emma stepped back in shock and confusion, but Madison lunged forward more aggressively, trying to physically remove the shoes from my daughter's feet right there in the middle of Kevin's living room. Madison, stop! Derek finally said something, but it was too little too late. That's when Brittany completely lost her mind and showed everyone exactly who she really was underneath the fake Instagram influencer act. She marched over and slapped Emma hard across the face with an open palm, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent room like a gunshot. Don't you dare disrespect my daughter! She screamed at my child, who was now holding her cheek, with tears forming in her eyes and a bright red handprint across her face. The entire party went dead silent. 20 adults were staring in absolute shock at what had just happened. Even Madison stopped trying to grab the shoes and looked confused about whether she should be happy or scared. Derek finally found his voice and said, "Brittany, what the hell was that?" But his tone was more confused than angry, like he couldn't process what his wife had just done. But it was already way too late for apologies or explanations. I had my phone out and was dialing 911 while staring directly into Brittany's eyes, letting her see exactly how serious this had just become. She was about to learn that actions have consequences, especially when you assault someone's child. The police arrived in exactly 9 minutes, which felt like an absolute eternity. While I stood there comforting Emma and watching Brittany pace around Kevin's living room like a caged animal who suddenly realized she'd made a terrible mistake. Two officers responded to the domestic disturbance call, an experienced male sergeant who looked like he'd handled thousands of these situations, and a younger female officer who immediately took charge of documenting everything properly. They separated everyone into different rooms for individual questioning. But before that process started, the female officer took detailed photographs of the bright red handprint across Emma's left cheek from multiple angles. The mark was clearly visible and obviously fresh, making it impossible for anyone to claim this was some old injury or accident. Here's what saved us from a he said, she said situation and made this an open and shut case: Kevin's comprehensive home security system. He's got Ring doorbell cameras covering the front entrance, plus additional cameras monitoring the back patio and main living areas where we'd been gathered. Everything that happened was recorded in crystal clear HD video with audio including Brittany calling Emma selfish Madison, physically trying to remove the shoes and the actual assault itself from multiple angles. The audio was clear enough to hear every word of the conversation leading up to the violence. The male sergeant reviewed the security footage on Kevin's tablet while taking detailed statements from everyone present. When he watched the part where Brittany slapped Emma, his entire demeanor shifted from routine domestic call to serious criminal matter requiring immediate action. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault on a minor," he informed Brittany in a tone that left absolutely no room for argument or negotiation. Derek started panicking immediately, begging the officers to just let it go and claiming it was all a big misunderstanding between family members. "She's never done anything like this before," he kept saying. "This isn't who she really is." But Brittany made everything infinitely worse by arguing with the police officers, insisting that Emma had provoked her by being disrespectful to Madison and refusing to share. She actually told the cops that Emma needed to learn some manners and that parents have a right to discipline disrespectful children. Madison was crying and screaming that it was all Emma's fault for not sharing her shoes like a good person should. Real classy behavior from this spoiled princess who'd never faced consequences for anything in her pampered, entitled life. They handcuffed Brittany right there in Kevin's living room while the entire extended family watched in stunned, horrified silence. Derek looked absolutely humiliated as his wife was led away in custody. And I'll admit, I felt a surge of deep satisfaction watching this entitled woman finally face some real accountability. Child Protective Services arrived about 45 minutes later to document everything officially and ensure Emma's safety. The caseworker was a seasoned professional who'd clearly handled thousands of these family violence situations throughout her career. She took additional photographs of Emma's injuries, interviewed her privately in Kevin's study to get her unfiltered account of what happened, and reviewed all the security footage independently to verify the facts. During her thorough investigation, the caseworker discovered some very interesting information about Madison's behavior patterns at her expensive private school. Turns out this spoiled kid had been systematically bullying classmates over designer clothing and accessories, threatening to get her rich stepdad to sue families who couldn't afford expensive brands. She'd been telling other students that poor people deserved to be poor because they didn't work hard enough, and that anyone wearing non-designer clothes was embarrassing themselves by coming to school. The private school administration had been trying to contact Brittany for weeks about these serious behavioral incidents, but she'd been consistently ignoring their calls and emails. 3 days later, Brittany was formally arraigned in county court and had to post $7,500 bail that Derek covered with money from their joint savings account. But the criminal charges were just the beginning of their rapidly mounting problems. Emma's volleyball coach had seen the arrest video, which somehow ended up circulating on social media despite our attempts to keep it private, and connected me with a family attorney who specializes in civil litigation involving assault cases. Within 1 week, we'd filed a comprehensive lawsuit for assault, intentional infliction of emotional distress, harassment of a minor, and creating a hostile family environment. The attorney was confident we had an excellent case given the video evidence and witness testimony. But the real entertainment was just getting started, because the story was about to go viral on the internet in ways none of us anticipated. Remember how Brittany calls herself an influencer with 55,000 followers on Instagram and constantly brags about her social media empire? Well, someone at Kevin's party, we never found out who posted the security footage of her arrest on TikTok, and it absolutely exploded across social media platforms. The video hit 1.08 million views in the first 24 hours. By day 3, it was approaching 4.2 million views with over 800,000 shares across TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The comment section was absolutely brutal and hilarious. Imagine being this entitled over your stepdad's money. Gold digger attacks child over shoes she didn't even buy. This is why you don't marry Instagram wannabes. Poor Emma just wanted to keep what she earned. Madison's behavior is exactly what I'd expect from this family. Derek needs to run from this crazy woman. Brittany tried desperately to control the narrative by posting a series of long Instagram stories claiming she was being attacked by toxic family members and that the video didn't show the full context of Emma being deliberately provocative and disrespectful. But this backfired spectacularly because internet users love nothing more than exposing fake influencers, and people immediately started digging into her background with the dedication of professional investigators. Here's what the social media detectives uncovered within 48 hours. She'd been married twice before Derek, both times to men with substantial incomes who divorced her for financial irresponsibility and manipulative behavior. Madison's biological father was actually paying $800 a month in child support that Brittany never told Derek about money she'd been pocketing. She'd been using Derek's credit cards to fund a secret shopping addiction totaling over $60,000 in hidden debt. Her actual influencer income was averaging $180 per month, not the $2,000 plus she'd been claiming to justify her lifestyle. She'd been lying about her age. She was actually 29, not 26, as she claimed on all her social media profiles. Several of her brand partnerships were with companies that had never heard of her. The brand sponsorships evaporated overnight. Companies absolutely do not want to be associated with viral videos of adults assaulting children regardless of the circumstances. Her follower count started dropping like a stone, 55,000 to 41,000 to 28,000 to 15,000, as people realized she was completely fake. Derek began receiving messages from both of her ex-husbands warning him about her established patterns of financial manipulation, emotional abuse, and pathological lying. Apparently, she'd pulled identical stunts with both previous marriages, maxing out credit cards, demanding expensive gifts, throwing violent tantrums when denied anything, then playing the victim when confronted. Meanwhile, the criminal case was progressing rapidly through the court system. The prosecutor decided to pursue maximum charges due to the viral nature of the incident, the clear video evidence, and Brittany's complete lack of remorse or accountability. Then Derek made a discovery that changed everything and opened his eyes to who he'd really married. While looking for tax documents in their shared home office, he found credit card statements that Brittany had been hiding from him in a locked file cabinet. She'd opened 7 different credit accounts using his income information and social security number without his knowledge or consent. The total fraudulent debt was absolutely staggering: $73,000 in unauthorized charges for designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments, expensive dinners, luxury hotel stays, and cash advances. She'd even been using the cards to send money to her mother and pay for Madison's extracurricular activities that Derek thought were being covered by her business income. Derek also discovered that Brittany had been making elaborate promises to Madison about their future financial arrangements. She'd been telling the girl that Derek was planning to legally adopt her and pay for her college education at whatever expensive university she wanted to attend. Derek had never agreed to any of this. He'd never even discussed adoption, and the college fund promises were completely fictional. The kid had been planning her entire future around financial commitments that existed only in her mother's manipulative imagination. 4 weeks after the arrest, Derek called me sounding completely defeated and emotionally drained. He was filing for divorce and wanted to know if Emma would be willing to testify about Brittany's long-established pattern of entitled and manipulative behavior toward our family. Emma absolutely agreed to help Derek escape this toxic situation. 6 months later, the criminal trial took place at the Maricopa County Courthouse downtown. With HD security footage showing Brittany slapping Emma, there really wasn't much to debate legally. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and crystal clear. Brittany's court-appointed attorney tried desperately to argue that she'd been provoked by Emma's disrespectful attitude and deliberate antagonism, but the video clearly showed Emma being polite, reasonable, and respectful throughout the entire interaction leading up to the assault. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before finding her guilty on all charges. They later told reporters that the video evidence made it impossible to reach any other conclusion, and several jurors expressed disgust at Brittany's complete lack of remorse. She received 120 days in county jail, 300 hours of community service, $12,000 in fines and restitution to Emma, and 2 years of supervised probation with mandatory anger management classes. The judge specifically noted that adults who assault children deserve the full weight of the law, regardless of any claimed provocation. But the civil lawsuit was where we really dismantled her entire life and exposed the full scope of her fraudulent behavior. My attorney subpoenaed all of Brittany's financial records going back 5 years and uncovered a systematic pattern of fraud, theft, and financial manipulation that went far beyond what we'd initially suspected. She'd been forging Derek's signature on credit applications, using his social security number, without permission to open accounts, stealing money from their joint checking account for fake business expenses, and even intercepting and cashing his tax refund checks. The divorce proceedings were absolutely devastating for Brittany in every possible way. Derek hired a forensic accountant who meticulously documented that she'd stolen over $127,000 during their 3-year marriage through various elaborate schemes. She'd been selling designer gifts that Derek bought her and keeping the cash for herself, taking money from their joint account to pay for her mother's rent and car payments, and using business credit cards for personal expenses while claiming tax deductions. Here's my absolute favorite part of this entire story. What happened to precious little Madison when the money train finally stopped? With Derek cutting off all financial support, immediately Madison had to transfer from her expensive private school to the local public high school right in the middle of the semester. No more private tutors, designer clothing allowances, or weekend shopping sprees funded by mommy's credit card schemes. The girl who thought she deserved Emma's shoes because her family had more money suddenly discovered what it's like to be a regular teenager from a broken home with financial problems. She got a part-time job at a local pizza place making minimum wage and had to start buying her own clothes at Target and Walmart instead of Nordstrom and Saks. The same girl who once bragged about Derek's 6-figure salary was now asking customers if they wanted to add breadsticks to their order. Brittany lost everything systematically. The BMW was repossessed since it was leased in Derek's name. The luxury apartment was also in Derek's name, so she got evicted. Most of her designer belongings got sold at auction to pay legal fees and civil damages. She moved back in with her elderly mother in a run-down apartment complex in Tucson and eventually found work at a medical billing call center making $16.50 per hour, her first real job at age 29. Her Instagram following dropped to about 3,000 followers, mostly bots and desperate guys, commenting fire emojis on her increasingly rare posts. No more brand deals, no more lifestyle content, just a washed-up former wannabe influencer posting discount codes for knockoff jewelry companies. But the universe still wasn't finished delivering justice to this entitled woman. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, Derek called me in a complete panic. The IRS had contacted Brittany about $31,000 in unpaid taxes from her supposed influencer income over the past 4 years. Turns out she'd been reporting fake business expenses, hiding cash payments from sponsors, and claiming deductions for personal purchases like designer clothes and spa treatments. The tax fraud investigation revealed even more lies and financial manipulation. They were garnishing her meager wages and threatening to seize any assets they could find. Madison, now 18 and working full-time at a restaurant while attending community college, was actually helping her mother pay rent because the call center salary wasn't enough to cover basic living expenses. The same spoiled girl who once thought Emma should give up shoes she'd worked months to afford was now learning what real financial struggle looks like. She'd gone from entitled princess with unlimited spending money to working-class reality in less than 2 years. But here's the absolute best part of this entire saga that makes me smile every time I think about it. 3 weeks ago, Brittany actually called me out of the blue. She was crying hysterically, begging me to put in a good word with Derek so he might consider helping her with a mounting tax debt that was destroying what remained of her life. She claimed she'd learned her lesson and now understood that she'd made some serious mistakes in the past. She promised she was a completely different person who'd grown and changed through all her hardships. I told her I'd consider reaching out to Derek on her behalf if she would do one simple thing: publicly apologize to Emma on social media and admit that she was completely wrong to assault my daughter over a pair of sneakers. You know what her response was after I made this reasonable request? "I can't do that, Tyler. It would destroy what's left of my reputation and my chances of rebuilding my brand." This woman had lost her marriage, her home, her income, her social media following, her freedom, and her dignity. But she still couldn't bring herself to admit she was wrong for hitting a child over designer footwear. Some people never learn no matter how badly life teaches them through natural consequences.